we have news about the DCEU.
Yeah, and it came out a couple days ago, but we weren't on top of it because you and I have both been really busy.
Right. We're a little behind, but it's still, I think it's interesting news. We talked about the DCEU a good amount, but I think this is definitely newsworthy, worth talking about. It's the entire future of the DCEU is changed, basically. So, recently, about 5 days ago, from what I can tell, a few days ago, an article came out, and DC basically announced that they're kind of moving away from the Marvel style of their cinematic universe. So instead of having one overarching narrative that they're going to be having their films revolve around, they're going in a completely separate direction. And so before we kind of talk about what we think about it, I think kind of give the facts and kind of what we know. So The Verge is where we're kind of getting this information.
Yeah, and I saw it first on The No, which they got it from The Verge, and I don't know if they got it from Screen Junkies or Screen Rant, but there were multiple people talking about this, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and they, and what it sounds like, from what we're gathering, is that DC is moving away from that style of movie based on their success from Wonder Woman, and how well that did. It's kind of essentially a standalone. I mean, it still has some nods to BVS and to, that the universe, but it's mainly a standalone movie. And they really liked how that went. It was critically received well. The fans loved it and made a ton of money. The other movies have been kind of hit and miss. I personally liked all of them, but Suicide Squad, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit.
And you even like Suicide Squad more than me.
Yeah, I at least...
You didn't hate it.
No, I enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't a good movie. So I had fun watching it,
yeah.
But it wasn't good. And so what they're going to do with this universe now is they're moving towards having the DCEU be more... Like, half of the movies are going to be in the continuity of Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, but instead of everything being around that one narrative like Marvel does, the films will be basically allowed to kind of do their own thing, let the directors go with the direction that they want to go, and just kind of see where it goes. Almost kind of just let it fly, let the directors make the movie that they want to make, and let them enjoy that. The other half is what the Martin Scorsese Joker movie is, the origin Joker movie, which is basically a spin-off that has nothing to do with the continuity.
Yeah.
And so it's not related. It's almost like a bizarro world where they're just allowed to do whatever they want. Like, for instance, Jared Leto won't be playing Joker in this movie, and it's, coming out at the same time as some other movies where presumably Jared Leto will be reprising his role. So it's interesting. It's going in a completely different direction than they had originally planned, completely away from Marvel. They're differentiating themselves. What do you think about it?
It's good and bad. I mean, it's good. You and I talked a tiny bit about it off camera, but not much. I think it's good in the sense that there's too much. Warner Brothers is having an issue with too much studio interference, and I would say they have been since Man of Steel.
Agreed.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Since Man of Steel came out. Because I don't think Man of Steel actually had a lot of studio interference, because it wasn't expected. I don't know if they really had the plan to use it as a launching point for a DC cinematic universe. Maybe they did, but it didn't seem like they did.
No, because that was one with Christopher Nolan kind of was working with that one too, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I think they were kind of just throwing a Superman movie out there because one hadn't been out in a while. But no, continue.
Well, that's just kind of what I mean. I don't know. There's like they haven't really known what they're doing with this, and so by just being like to every director that comes around and tries to do good work by being like, no, do it like this, dude. Come on, just do it like, do it like that. You know you want to do it like
guy.
This.
Yeah.
You know you want to do this. It's like, well, why don't you direct the movie? I'm not a director. Well, then don't tell the director everything he's got to do.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like. So there's been an issue with that, but at the same time, you also have an issue with any universe you want to be one thing. If you're like, but by the way, we don't like really have a plan of where we're taking this. And even though their plan wasn't good, they did have a plan of where they were taking this, And from what I'm getting out of this, they're a little bit like not. It doesn't seem like they have as steady of a plan anymore. Does it to you?
No, and I think that's what I kind of like about it. I see an area for concern because, like, for a general audience, when there's basically, it sounds like there's like a continuity, and then there's stuff that isn't applied to that continuity. Like, it could get confusing, but at the same time, they're doing something different. They're giving their directors free reign to play with an arsenal of characters that really deserve to just let their stories go and just let directors pull from the comics, make a story that they want to make, and like do justice to the characters. So I think by letting them kind of do their own thing, you're opening up a lot of possibilities that Marvel really doesn't have, because they have one strict narrative. You're giving half the movies, yeah, this is all connected, but it's not necessarily here's the narrative we're going by. It's more of like, well, we'll see where this kind of leads us.
Well, yeah, and those the other half is not connected at all, so you can do whatever you want. I just mean for the half that is connected, the idea is good. Like, in and of itself, it is a good idea. It's just a question of, if there's no end game that you're leading to, why is it connected?
Which it doesn't seem like there is. And
but that would be my question. Is like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Why connect it then?
Right.
Why does it need to be connected? Like, if there's no end game at all, like no build up to big cinematic events, you might as well just have all these characters be doing their own thing entirely.
Right.
Kind of like they used to do. Like, there wouldn't be a point of shared universe. Like, just because it being a shared universe doesn't mean anything unless those stories intertwine.
Right.
There's no point. So that would just be my only thing, is like, at that point, if that's what they're saying, then you might as well just ditch the DCEU entirely.
And just roll with a bunch of Batman and Superman and all these
Wonder
DC
Woman,
characters.
Yeah, just doing their own thing without any interconnectivity. If there's no plan at all. And I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I'm just saying that would be, you know, the way that this could go wrong.
And it is kind of disappointing, because I really wanted the DCEU to kind of, I don't want to say like just dominate Marvel and do better, but I really wanted it to like improve, and like for them to grow from Wonder Woman, do well in Justice League, and bounce back and like continue the story. And if they had an endgame, cool, because it seemed like they were moving towards eventually bringing Darkseid in. Like, there was a lot of like cool areas that they were going to move towards. Well, now it's like, well, that Justice League is done, and I mean, they had all these plans. Like, what happens with the plans that they had before?
And Justice League is still coming out.
Well, right. I mean, like, as far as like
yeah,
movies
we don't
further
know.
out,
We
like,
don't know after that.
Right, with like Black Adam, you know, like The Rock was already cast. They have like all these things set up for movies in the future, and where does that leave it? Like, where, if they're completely ditching, it sounds like, I mean, really they're ditching it, and it's kind of just, hey, do your own thing. We'll see if these things line up later down the road. Well, then what does that mean for all the movies that were announced, like Green Lantern, Cyborg, Flash, Wonder Woman 2, Man of Steel 2, the
Maybe
Batman
they'll do me a
solos.
favor and cancel that Cyborg movie.
Well, yeah, and they might. I mean, I don't know, I guess, where it leads. I guess there's some pros and cons to this. Like, it seems kind of confusing to the general audience. It's probably going to be very confusing.
Well, that was my issue with that Scorsese no connection at all thing in the first place, which I brought up to you, was that, like, you always make the argument about, like, well, what about the general audience? I usually don't care about them, because it's a comic book movie. To me, it's I know, like, it's not anymore, but the way my brain thinks of it is, nerdy comic book movie. This is already a niche thing. Like, I know it's not anymore.
Yeah.
So, but that's how it always was. So it's like, what about the general audience? What general audience? Is the way I usually still at first think about it. Is like, there never was.
Right.
Now there is. So it is a concern. So if you're just being like, oh, by the way, there's going to be like, every other movie's not connected to the DCEU, but this one is. And then on Tuesdays, this movie will be connected to the DCEU, but I don't know. What about that one? It's like, all right.
Like,
where are you going with that?
I think that's exactly the question. Like, where are they going? Where is the direction with this? Because it seems like they're just like, well, why don't we just drop this idea? Because we don't feel like it's going well.
And it's
and improvise.
Ironically, all of the studio interference has been money-based, and this is another decision that's money-based. They looked at what Wonder Woman made. They didn't even look at the critical, like, stuff, I don't think. Maybe they looked at, like, how it was actually received well, too. But, like, really, they looked at, like, Wonder Woman did really well financially. and people loved it. And they're like, well, instead of like, risking it and being like, oh, let's keep doing what we're doing, they're like, but money though, maybe we should actually not do that thing.
Well,
so it's like so much of this like universe and so much of these properties are based on like, oh, but $30 more here, I'm just
right.
That's a joke,
right?
You know what I'm saying? It's like, but we could eke this thing out, or like, oh, we could like get on board the hype train. Like that was the whole point in the beginning. Like DC had no interest in a cinematic universe till the MCU. They didn't.
Yeah.
And once that came out, they were like, but money though. Then they tried, and they played it super safe, 'cause money. And then once their safeness didn't work, and Wonder Woman made money, they're like, oh, but still money.
Yeah, so but I guess that's what I don't get, though, is like Batman vs. Superman made over $800 million.
Well, I think it's a combination of the money and the critical response
right,
that Wonder Woman got. It got both.
It got
so they're
both,
not risking, there's no risk. They're not risking the brand by getting, if you make a good thing, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they should make bad movies.
No.
I'm just saying, like, if you look at this, all of these... The choice to not interfere is made from a standpoint of interference. That is what I'm trying to get at and doing a bad job of articulating.
No, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like, they are saying, we won't touch it anymore, and in doing so, let's touch it.
Right.
It's just a little ironic.
Yeah.
That's all.
And it's a little hypocritical, maybe?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, like, not as much, because, like, it's a company, like, if it was one guy making these decisions, 100%.
Right.
It's done by committee, and I don't think anyone really wants to make a bad movie at Warner Brothers.
No.
Like, I don't think anyone's like, let's make garbage. Like, no, even Suicide Squad, I don't think anyone said that, but, like, they thought it was going to be good. It wasn't. They didn't want to fess up to it. They just kept going. And I guess in a way it was a lose-lose situation, because if they did stop, then they're being hypocritical, and if they kept going, they're ignoring what fans want. So I don't know, like, I'm excited to see where this goes from here. I don't want to be, like, hard on DC, because, like, if they realize that some of what they were doing was bad, good on them.
Yeah.
That's something companies can't really do very well anymore, is admit mistakes, it seems like. So good on them for that. I just hope that they have some kind of plan, because if there's no plan at all, there's no point to a cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's basically like half and half. We'll see what happens. Let Scorsese do his thing, and then we'll see what everyone else wants to do with the continuity. So I don't know. I guess.
Do you have any like closing thoughts, like other than that? Like, do you have anything? Because I have a couple things. I'll just throw this in here like as 1 minute. What are some things you would like to see a live action thing for, if you know that it has nothing to do with the DCEU and they can do whatever they want? Because one of them for me is The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
And another one is Red Sun Superman or All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
Love to see either of those.
Well, that's
because I'm finding the silver lining here. There's a lot of good stuff you can do that's not connected to mainline DC.
Yeah, and I guess that's a big pro that I like too, is that this opens up a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things that they weren't going to do before. So there's...
Yeah. Are there a couple you'd want to see?
Yeah, I really want to see a good Flash movie done on the big screen, live action. I mean, just by judging from the trailers.
But that's still likely going to be connected.
Well, even not though. Like something like
so a Flash that's not normal Flash.
Well, I mean, I like Ezra Miller though. I guess so. So you're saying something other than like.
I guess what I mean is like something that doesn't necessarily need to be connected, or it can be connected to its own alternate cinematic universe. Like maybe Death in the Family.
That could be brilliant. Yeah, I really like that.
Under the Red Hood.
Or even the New 52 Death of the Family kind of thing.
Death of the Family.
That is dark. And
yeah,
why
you could do a rated R with that.
That could be nuts. And I think that'd be a haunting DC movie. But it'd be awesome. It'd be really cool to see on the screen. There's so much from the comics they can pull. I honestly wouldn't mind them like doing something with Red Hood.
What if they did like The Dark Knight Returns?
That could be cool too. Like an older Batman,
like a legitimately older,
with the Carrie Kelly Robin. I think that'd be sick. I would like to see. I mean, they've already talked about it a little bit, but like the Nightwing movie that we talked about is probably gonna fall into the not continuity phase. So I wonder.
I don't know. I'm interested to see, because we do have the Jason Todd Robin canon
right
in the DCEU.
Right. So what's gonna happen there? I mean, there's a lot of potential, but there's a lot of potential for confusion and disarray too.
Even among us.
Yes, and we
what
live for this.
You know what I want to see? A movie that we don't know if it's set in the DCEU, and no one will.
And they don't tell you. They're like, "No, you figure it out."
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be kind of cool. Actually.
And it's like maybe like really dark, rated R, and it's either like the future or like this is just
like a Flashpoint paradox kind of thing.
Yeah, or like what if do you think they will do anything inside the DCEU to explain that there's alternate realities? Like a Flashpoint paradox or something to show that there's this other canon?
I mean,
or do you think they will pretend that it doesn't exist inside the DCEU?
I think they're setting it up to be a possibility because, I mean,
that would be actually fantastic.
It would be, because if you look at, like, boom tubes and stuff already in Justice League...
I'm starting to get excited as we talk about it.
It's kind of cool, dude. There's so much potential, and I think, yeah, there's issues, and, you know...
we got them, too.
And we got them, too.
Give them all to me, and I'll give mine to you. Let's skip the glory or something.
Yeah, something, yeah.
And the cinematic you.
Yeah, maybe
skip the glory and the cinematic you. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with this. It's gonna be very interesting. There's no more, like, main stories you'd want to see that you could think of?
No, I mean, other than I'd like to see something like Justice League Doom, like where that was the story where Batman has all these fail-safe plans against all of the Justice League members, and then the bad guys get a hold of that and use them against the Justice League, and then they have to kind of figure out like that. I thought that was a really interesting, well done animated movie.
And burying Batman alive.
Yes, and I think
with his parents.
Like, that's dark, and that's something like DCU goes for dark. So I think that'd be really cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's a lot to be excited about, I guess. But
there is, yeah, and I definitely don't want to be hard on DC. You know,
right.
They realized that what they were doing was not a good way to take it. They're changing it good on them.
Yep.
Like, legitimately.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, let us know what you think. Are you excited for this stuff? Are there any movies, like standalone movies, you'd want to see? I know we're getting a Gotham by Gaslight animated movie, so maybe there's something they could do with even Elseworld stories like that. Son of Superman. There's a lot of good stuff. Anyway, guys, let us know, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.